Hi, today we're going to continue to graph linear equations. Remember, linear equations, when we find all their solutions, form a line. So far we have been making t-tables and finding pairs of numbers that work on our equations. Well, today I'm going to teach you another way that we can graph linear equations, and you might like this. It might be a little bit quicker. To do this, we're going to use our intercepts. What is an intercept? An intercept is a point where it crosses or intersects an axis. We have two different intercepts. We have a y-intercept. That's the point where it crosses or intersects the y-axis. And we also have an x-intercept, which you can probably guess is a point where it crosses the x-axis. Every y-intercept is going to be on the y-axis. Therefore, it's always going to be a number 0, comma, y. If the first coordinate's 0, it's not going to move left or right. It's just going to stay on that y-axis and slide either up or down. So it's always going to be a point 0, y. The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. So for this one, it's going to be some number for x, and the second coordinate needs to keep it on the x-axis. Therefore, it will always be 0. So those 2 points, 0, comma, y, and x, comma, 0, are called the intercepts. Sometimes people call them the zeros, because those are the points that have at least one 0 in them. Let's practice finding some intercepts and then using them to graph our equations. Taking a look at our first example. It says to find the x and y intercepts of the equation 4x plus 3y equals 12, and then use those intercepts to graph. Well, to find our first intercept, we're going to substitute in 0 for the x and then solve. So my equation says 4 times x, which we'll use 0, plus 3 times y equals 12. Well, we know 4 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 3y is just 3y. When 3y equals 12, that means y must be 4. So we know the point 0, comma 4 is a solution, and that would be my y-intercept. To figure out the other intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for the y-coordinate and solve it. So my original equation, 4 times x plus 3 times y, but we're going to use 0 for y, equals 12. Now solve this. Well, we know this makes 0. 4x plus 0 has to equal 12, so 4x has to equal 12. Therefore, x must be 3. So when y is 0, the x is 3. And make sure you put them in the right spots. X was 3, x comes first, y was 0, you know y comes second. Now we have 2 points and we can graph our equation. Add the axes to your graph. Remember, this is my x, this is my y. And graph our points. 0, 4 means I go no left and right. I go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is my y-intercept. 0, 3 means I go 3 to the right and no up or down. That's called my x-intercept. It's where it crosses the x-axis. And now we'll use a straight edge and graph the rest of our line. Make sure you do use something straight so you're graphing very neatly. And there is a quick and easy way to graph the equation 4x plus 3y equals 12. Now, when we made our tables, I made you find 3 points that worked. When we use our intercepts, we're only going to use 2 points, but you need to be super duper careful because there's no way to check and see if you made a mistake. If you want to find a third point, you can, but technically all you need is 2 points to know where your line goes. Example number 2 is the equation is y equals 4x plus 40. I want you to pause the video now and try to find the intercepts. Remember, we're going to find the ordered pair 0, comma, something, and the ordered pair something, comma, 0. Do the same steps we did in the first example. And once you are done, restart the video to check yourself. All right, now that you've tried example number 2 on your own, let's check and see how you did. Remember to find our intercepts. We want to plug 0 in place of x, and we want to plug 0 in place of y and find our intercepts. So when I plug 0 into my equation, I get y equals 4 times 0 plus 40, which means I'd end up with y is equal to 40. It's a big number. Over here, when I plug in 0 in the place of y, we get 0 is equal to 4x plus 40. So now we need to solve for x. I subtract 40 from both sides. I get 4x is equal to negative 40. I need to divide both sides by 4. X is equal to negative 10. So my intercept would be at negative 10, 0. So now I need to graph these ordered pairs on my grid. I'm not going to be able to go by ones and get them to fit. So what could I do instead? What if I go by tens? If I go by tens, this first mark here would be 10, this would be 20. It's important to label it so that someone reading your graph knows you have changed the scale. Going backwards, this would be negative 20 here, and this would be negative 20 here. So my first ordered pair, 0, 40, means I go no left and right, I go up 40, 10, 20, 30, 40. There would be my y-intercept because it crosses the y-axis. Over here, negative 10, 0 means I go negative 10 to the left, or 10 to the left, which is negative 10, and I stay right on the x-axis. So this is called my x-intercept. Now we have our 2 ordered pairs. We're going to draw a line. And there is our graph of y equals 4x plus 40. Last example today is a story problem. Student council is selling tickets to a fall carnival. They would like to sell $2,000 worth of tickets. They are planning to charge $5 for student tickets and $10 for adult tickets. How many of each kind could they sell to make their goal? First of all, we need to define our variables. We need to decide what is x going to be, what is y going to be. And it doesn't really matter as long as we all agree. So I'm just going to let x stand for the first thing. X stands for the number of student tickets. And I'm going to let y stand for the number of adult tickets. So now we're going to write an equation. Well, we know they want to raise $2,000. So whatever I sell has got to equal $2,000. And every student ticket they sell, they get $5 for. So if I sell X tickets, I'm going to raise X times $5. Or the way to write that is 5X. plus, hopefully they sell some adult tickets. They're going to hopefully sell Y adult tickets, and each one of those they earn $10 for. So they're going to do Y times 10. Or the way we write that is 10Y. So now here's our equation. It asks us to graph possible solutions. Well, we could make a table and find solutions, or today we've learned to find those intercepts, to find those zeros, to find where 0, comma something and something, comma 0 are intercepts. So if I plug in 0 in place of X, if I sell no student tickets and all adult tickets, that means I'm going to need to sell 10 divided by 2,000, or 2,000 divided by 10, excuse me, which would mean 200 adult tickets. So when X equals 0, my Y has to be 200. What if my Y was 0? My equation would look like 2,000 is equal to 5X plus 10 times 0. Well, 10 times 0 is 0, so 5X has got to equal 2,000. If we divide by 5, X has got to be 400. So if I sell 0 adult tickets, I have to sell 400 student tickets. And now we're going to graph these ordered pairs. Now before I draw my X and Y axis, would negative tickets make any sense in this story problem? No, you're never going to have negative tickets. All my possible solutions are going to be positives. Therefore, we know all our solutions are going to be here in this first quadrant where everything is positive and positive. So I'm not even going to bother to graph quadrants 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to make my graph just be all the first quadrant. So right here is going to be my y-axis. Right here is going to be the x-axis. Now X, we'll go back here, it stood for the number of student tickets. So this is the number of student tickets. And this right here stood for the number of adult tickets. Now we need to decide upon a scale. Well, I need to go at least up to 400. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, they're not going to make it. Can't go by tens. I could go by hundreds. 1, 2, 3, 400. But then I have a lot of empty space here in my grid. So rather than going by tens, too small, or hundreds, which makes it pretty small, what if we go by 50s? Will it fit? 50, 100. If I skip 2, this would be 200. 300, 400, it'll fit. So let's go by 50s. And because I can't write too small, I'm going to label every other mark. This is going to be 100, 200, 300, 400. And if I'm going by 50s here, I'm also going to go by 50s vertically. So 50, this would be 100. Here would be 200. Here would be 300. And so on. So now we're ready to graph our intercepts. 0, 200. That means no left or right, just up to 200. I could sell 200 adult tickets and no student tickets and get the money I wanted, or the student council can. The other ordered pair is 400, 0. So we go to the right 400 and stay right on this mark. And now we're going to draw our line. And that stands for all the different possibilities in between. Again, take your time and use a straight edge. So all these other ordered pairs in between are different possibilities the student council could sell and still earn $2,000.